time around. And when we had our very first class, Lynn asked us to stand up, introduce ourselves, and then tell what was our favorite gardening tool. And I said it was a 10-year-old boy. Because my son Jonathan, my only son, I have 3 girls and a boy bringing up the rear, so Jonathan was it. And he was just so handy. He toted everything. He would go get me stuff, and he could be a gardener if he wanted to. He prefers to cook though, so that's a win-win right there. And so now it's just kind of crazy because that 10-year-old kid is now a 24-year-old Marine. And so life goes on, and these are some really great people to spend it with. So if y'all have not ever joined the Wood County Master Gardeners, I highly, highly recommend it. You won't regret it at all. And and then like the roses too. The rose is my favorite herb. And while I did know how to grow some roses and I was doing okay with them, again, Master Gardener class, we had a class on roses, and Mark Chambly came over and taught it. And it was amazing what an hour and a half with an expert can do for you. You just need a handful of tips, to go back and make whatever you're doing so much better. And so I hope that's what you can take away from here today. And I'm going to kind of cap it and wrap it all up for y'all, is that you don't need a ton of stuff. You don't need a ton of tools. Like you saw what Kim was using up here. She has some jars, and she has some scissors for cutting herbs. And maybe you need a basket to put them in to get them from the garden to the kitchen. But that's going to really be about it. A rack to draw them on, or you just tie them up and hang them on a clothesline going down your wall, which I have done. Because I ran out of room in the kitchen, so then it went down the wall. Because the freeze was coming. I couldn't let all that basil just die in the garden. I had to bring it in. So that meant it just got hung on a clothesline in big bundles, and the house smelled wonderful for days and weeks. So yeah, it's good stuff. And so we're gonna talk about that, how we're gonna wrap it up, and we're gonna make your herbs your way. I'm sure you kind of noticed if you sat here for all the presentations, every single one of us presented it differently. And like if you I was telling them here during the break, if you went to my kitchen and my garden, where my kitchen, because that's where my pantry is, where all my herb medicines are and my herbal concoctions are, and you looked at my garden, you would say this person is very successful at what they're doing. If you went to Kim's, and I'm sure the others too, the Barbas, you can see it, but Kim and I, we're actually friends outside of this, and we've been to each other's places and seen their stuff. And so you go to Kim's garden and you look at her kitchen, and she is obviously very successful as well. But half of what she's like, most of everything she said, how she does it, I don't do it that way. I don't garden the same way. I don't plant them in the same kind of conditions. And so I just thought it's just such an example of how there's not a one right way to do it. So pick up what resonated with you today. And you may be thinking, I don't have that much sun. And that's okay. I have a very shady place now too. And where I started at was very shady. It was a very, very steep hill, red clay, and mostly shade. And everything you read in the garden book will tell you that I shouldn't have been able to garden there, but I did. So you can. And then if you go to Lynn's garden, she lives in a very shady place, but she still gardens like mad. So it doesn't really matter what you have, something will grow there. So I don't want you to feel like you're out of the game because you don't have sun or you don't have good soil. Most of us don't have good soil. All of us have to live in our soil. That's why they teach class on soil, because nobody has got perfect soil unless you have loam. If you're out and around the Jacksonville area, you're pretty darn close. And it's pretty amazing that red loam out there. But that's an exception, not the rule. So if you would, hold our slide. Okay, so I want you to think about today, like what sparked your interest? Was it the culinary when she was talking about making the infused oil that you could use in your kitchen? Was it during Pamela when she was talking about all the many things that one herb could do? Like, did you notice how many things you could do with thyme, or how many things you could do with rosemary? That's what I'm saying. You don't have to have a lot. Just get you a few. And but what resonated with you, and that's where you start. Or maybe you heard about some of the medicinal aspects of it, and you've been struggling in some areas, and maybe all the other things you've tried haven't worked. And so you're thinking maybe the herbs could, and I'm here to say the herbs certainly can help you. And so if that's where you want to start, then that's where you start. There's no one place to start. It's about what makes you interested. Or like when she was talking about the very first session, and she was talking about historical aspects of it. spark too. If what you love is herbs for their history, that's fine too. Yeah, I don't care if you've ever cut that herb and bring it into your kitchen and use it or make a tincture with it. If you just like looking at it, the herb is worth growing. Like lemongrass, I don't even use lemongrass, to be honest, very much. It's got a lot of uses, but lemongrass takes a good bit of effort to harvest because it's a pretty, has a really strong base, and you've got all these straps, leaves that, you got to get up in the middle of, and it's not as easy as taking scissors to basil. So lemongrass has just not been one that ever really resonated with me as far as using lemongrass. But I have never had an herb garden that didn't have lemongrass in it because I think it's beautiful. It flutters in the wind. It doesn't cut you like pampas grass does. And then it does smell good if you crush it. You can smell that lemony flavor and that lemony scent, and it's very lovely herb. So you don't even have to use them to enjoy them. You can just enjoy the history of it and where they came from. It's absolutely fascinating when you start going down that rabbit hole. Herb lore and all the myths associated with herbs, and there's all kinds of rumors spreading around about garlic as an example, and we're going to talk about garlic here in a minute. And so yeah, fascinating stuff. So what sparked your interest? And that's where you'll go. Go ahead. And so there's a picture there of my herb garden, and it is a journey. When I started, my gardens didn't look like that. And matter of fact, and I don't just mean in this place. I mean when I started gardening, it didn't look like that because I had to learn a lot. For one thing, I didn't think the soil was interesting, and I didn't care about it. Isn't that stupid? I mean, that's just dumb. And you've got to be interested in the soil because that's where everything comes from. But I didn't care. I just wanted to plant plants and have flowers. And so therefore a lot of things died because I had clay. Guess what? Now I will say what likes clay will thrive and be the biggest, prettiest plant you ever saw. There's very few plants that love clay and thrive in it. So I had a lot of successes once I started learning to pay attention to the soil and working with what I had. And so it is a journey. And as you heard every person talk about like what they like to grow, what they have trouble growing, you're not going to be successful with everything. That's one of the biggest myths I hear people when they tell me like, oh, I can't grow stuff, I kill things. We all, as gardeners, we have killed more plants than anybody else has ever tried because we just keep planting until we find the ones that work. And then I had one old gardener tell me one time, she said, here's what I do. If it dies, I don't plant it again. And if it lives, I plant more. And I was like, well, that was pretty simple. I've been making it way too complicated. So, and it can look like it can also look like anything you want it to look. If you go look at Barbara's gardens out here behind the greenhouse, it's very neat and tidy. Everything stays in its containers. It's gorgeous. She's a retired air traffic controller, so that tells you something about her. If you come look at mine, it's just this side of wild. Nothing stays in its containers. Things get out of it and go where it wants to go, and so we have to mow them down because they're out in miles and all of that. But I love it. I love the chaos. I also love looking at hers, but I know that's just not me, and it's never, ever, ever going to be me. And my desk doesn't look neat and tidy. My house is neat and tidy. Where I work does not look like that. So have your own journey. It can be and look like anything you want it to look like. And so as you're thinking about where you want to start, these are the things like you've heard some about each of these today. And so you need to ask yourself, what do you want from the herbs? Do you want it for healing? And if so, like what is the problem? Is it some chronic pain? Is it a chronic disease? Is it preventative? Like maybe you've heard that rosemary has chemical compounds in it that there are studies that have been done, and I can give you receipts. They're on my website if you wanted to go look at them. Where that's showing that rosemary has a chemical compound that helps protect the chemicals in your brain that prevent dementia food, well, culinary. And if so, then you gotta ask yourself, well, what flavor profiles do I want? And do I want it for seasoning? Do I want it to make infused oils to add flavor? Or do you want to make your own salad dressings and vinaigrettes with your herbs? Like, what is it that you want from it? And that's where you start, because y'all were presented with a lot of information today. Pamela really, she just gave it to you. Those herbs can do so many things. And so there's a lot to take in, and sometimes we can get paralyzed because there's too much information and we don't know where to start. So these questions will help you bring it back, take what you learned and plug it in there, and then you can start there and build your herb journey how you want it to look. And I was talking at one of our, it was a class at my farm, and someone asked a question, and I said, well, all you really need is like 5 good herbs, and then I made a joke and said, and maybe 3 good weeds, because so many herbs we think of as weeds, and one in particular has been on the cover of every herbicide package for decades, and it's actually one of the most powerful medicinal herbs you'll ever meet. And so we've been taught that a lot of our herbs are weeds. My definition of a weed is a plant growing where it doesn't belong, because grass to me is a weed. It does not belong in my beds. Whereas some people spend a lot of money on a very lush green lawn and consider the dandelions that I plant on purpose a weed. So it just depends on what it is you want. And so we're going to talk about, these are my favorite 5. If I had to pick 5 herbs, these are the ones I would go with, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, from 1 is rosemary. Y'all have heard so much about rosemary today, I think you know why I have chosen rosemary. And up in this region, generally they will go in the ground, and like Kim was saying, she had one for 5 years. I've known people that have grown for 10. Generally speaking, rosemary is a very hardy herb and will do just fine in our winters. Every now and then we have an anomaly like Snowmageddon or whatever that's just absolutely bizarre, and you might lose some plants. But generally speaking, rosemary is going to be a good one to start with. And like Kim said, ignore it and it thrives. That's also why rosemary is a good place to start, because if you're an inexperienced gardener, it's very forgiving. Just don't overwater it. That's one of the biggest mistakes we make as gardeners, especially in the beginning, is we overwater and it does more damage. Yeah, we're good. So I like rosemary would be the one I picked because it's an overall. So I'm not saying this as a master gardener. I'm saying this as someone who has grown and used herbs medicinally for I guess we're on about 27 years now that I've been using herbs medicinally. So I approach herbs very much from a medicinal standpoint. I'm not a doctor, I'm not diagnosing, I'm not prescribing, and neither are any of these other ladies that have spoken today. But I am going to share with you things that have worked for us and my family and how we use them. So rosemary is an overall body stimulant. It'll stimulate the immune system. It'll help protect the brain, like I talked about. There's a lot of different aspects about rosemary too. And kind of going back to the vocal part and the historical part of it, rosemary has always been known as rosemary for remembrance. Like even before they had the scientific studies to prove out, they understood, they saw improvement in memory when rosemary was around. So in the Romans, when you see on picture, the scholars with their little rosemaries on their head, and that was why, because they were using it to help them do better and be better academically, and it was very important to them to be intelligent and academic in that era. So rosemary was held in high regard. put a lot of emphasis on that eye there and dragging them out. Yeah, and so it helps to calm the nervous system. And some people, I being one of them, it actually acts as a sleep aid. I have to know that I'm staying home to take a good dose of valerian root because I'm probably going to need a nap, and I certainly don't need to be operating a vehicle. So for me, operating a vehicle, as I see on my best days, don't need any help in that arena. So that's why we keep valerian root on hand. And then garlic, y'all. It's so good. I can't even explain how many different ways garlic can be used. It's antimicrobial in all its forms. So parasites, viruses, bacteria, all of that, it will kill it out. And it's so interesting to me. Again, I'm going to go back to the folklore and I'm going to tie it into the science, because way back when people did not understand the science, so they attached a superstition to what they saw. So, like say during the Black Plague, the garlic mongers weren't getting sick. So they assumed it was the garlic, and they were correct. It was the garlic, but they thought it had a supernatural, spiritual aspect to it. And so the garlic itself hung on the neck would ward off the evil spirit, creating the illness. And so obviously that wasn't it. The garlic mongers ate so much of their own product, they had a really healthy immune system. In the plague, people had it inside their body like it was everybody else's. Therefore, they appeared to be supernaturally protected, when really they were protected by something, internal. So it's just kind of neat how it got tied in. I'm not sure how it came to be that garlic is said to repel vampires. I'm not sure how that one came about. But, I've never been bit by a vampire, and I use garlic all the time, so, maybe it is. And then there was another lady that told me, because I did art festivals, grew herbs, did art festivals and all that, I got to talk to a lot of folks. I heard a lot of stories. Some a little bizarre, others, seem credible. But she was telling me, and at this point she was in her 70s and I was in my 40s, so it was years and years ago. They had gone on a senior trip to Mexico, and as they were crossing the border, a little lady in the shop, as they got into Mexico, told them, said, if you'll swallow a whole clove of garlic, not a whole big bundle of it, just a clove. She said, if you'll swallow a whole clove of garlic, you won't get sick. And the lady I was talking to thought, what have I got to lose? So she swallowed the whole clove of garlic. Her best friend said, that's stupid, I'm not doing it. She got deathly sick. My friend that was telling me about it did not get sick. And ever since she told me that, if one of my grandkids or anyone around me has stomach bug, I swallow a whole clove of garlic. And y'all, I haven't got, I can be getting thrown up on it. I have not got sick since. So we're a big believer in the garlic. And again, these are my stories. These are what we've experienced. So y'all research it and decide for yourself. But so garlic is on my top 5 list. And all of these, if you'll notice, you may not know what they are. Like you might not be familiar with them, but they are ones that will grow in our regions. Like we can all grow these herbs and harvest them if we wanted to. And that's another one of my focus is I want to grow and use and teach others about herbs that you can actually grow and use easily where you live, because I feel like if we really want to have food independence and things like that, we have to have a skill set that can grow what we want. I think that there's a lot of good reasons to use supplements. If you know what she pointed out, you need to know who you're buying your supplements from. You need to do some research on that. And there are some really wild sounding herbs that come from down around the equator and things like that. I'm not saying those don't work, but if I can't grow them, if I had to, then that's not where my focus is. So my focus is always on the ones that I can grow and some can use, and they're easy to use. Yeah. And then oregano, and I just put out there everything, because oregano is one of those little blossoms. They look a lot like a honeysuckle blossom, only they're in a ball and they put on a whole lot. You harvest the blossoms and we make tinctures out of them, things like that. And I love it for pain relief. And Barbara was the one who told me about using it. And so now we use it too for that. She gave me my first plant. That's another thing about herbs. You share them with your friends and it just keeps going. And it's very cool. And so with that, with those 5 right there, you can have a home medicine cabinet that can really take care of a whole lot of stuff for you. And I'm not in any way saying that modern medicine doesn't have its place. I'm not one of those. I think if the two work together, we can see some major improvements on things. So you need to have, you need to have a very well-versed toolkit. You can have everything in there. And so this is what we have at home. And so then these are my 3 good weeds. Dandelions, that's the one that has erased the picture of every herbicide for the last probably 20 years. Everyone's trying to kill it out, and I'm kind of like, why? By the time the nighttime temperatures are warm enough for your grass to grow well, the dandelions will be done. The native ones that grow here, they're a cool season crop. They're gone by the time grass really starts to grow well, and then they will pop up again in the fall, but your grass has kind of stopped growing then too. I'm a big fan, a big proponent of dandelion. It's one that is known for helping detox the liver. Historically, this is what they use dandelion for.
It also repairs your soil.
It does. It's the minor, that deep taproot that you can never, ever, ever, ever get all of it out. Well, it's pulling nutrients way down deep in your soil, pulls it up into the leaves, and then when the leaves die and decompose on your soil, all those nutrients that have dug up from the bottom have now decomposed on the topsoil. So now your topsoil has been improved. Go ahead, bump it one more. We're going to talk specifically about each one of the weeds because I think they deserve a little more time than they usually get. So here's the historic medicinal properties for dandelion. Liver support and detoxification, digestive aid, and prebiotic. Prebiotic means it's going to set up a good environment for your gut bacteria. A lot of the chronic problems that a lot of us face today have to do with our guts not being healthy. It's kind of been a bit of a catchphrase as of late, but that doesn't make it any less true. Gut health is essential. In your immune system, your cells that remember and recognize threats and attack them and kill them out, that's what the immune system is designed to do. They're trained in the gut. They're taught what is good and what is bad in your gut, so you can see how important your gut is to your immune system. And now they're also finding out that the vagus nerve system that runs, from your brain down to your gut, they used to think mostly that was your brain sending information to your gut. And now they have come to understand that it's your gut sending information to your brain. So it's very important, that particular nervous system, and so it's very connected to your gut and your brain and all of that. So it's really important to take care of your gut. And dandelion helps with that. Diuretic and kidney health, anti-inflammatory and immune boosting, and then blood sugar regulation. A lot of our problems today too are tied to being insensitive to insulin. So anything that we can do to help our bodies remain sensitive is a good thing. And dandelions are one of them. And I use dandelions in all forms, and you can use the whole entire plant. Blossom, leaves, root, the whole thing. And so I use the whole thing, and then I also make teas with it if we need to. Dandelions are bitter. That's one reason it's why it's known for being so good for your gut. Bitters are good for your gut. But that means they don't taste very good on your tongue. It's the term bitter. So I don't really love dandelion all on its own. It's not a very good tasting tea, but you can blend it with something that tastes a little bit better, like lemon balm, and it'll go down better. But you can also make tinctures from dandelion. You can make infused oils from dandelion, and a lot of y'all are probably thinking this lady is nuts, because I can see some of y'all going, I am not using those things. It's just kind of funny. But it's good, I'm telling you. It works. So I use dandelions a lot. Alright, next. So that would be plantain. Oh my goodness. This one is one And it's also known as a drawing herb, which you'll find it in salves that kind of draw out. If you've got an infection in your cut, you can put that on top and it'll help draw that infection to the top. This is one herb that I keep it on hand. Plantain, mullein, and comfrey. Those are my three like skin herbs. And it's one of those things where I'm always surprised sometimes when I see it work. Like I know what it'll do. But one day we were given by our neighbor a baby calf that for whatever reason, whatever happened when it was born, the mama rejected it. It had been stepped on, so its tail was smashed and it was caked in poo and all that and had caused decay. And I honestly thought he was going to lose his tail, because most of them do when that happens. The tail's going to rot off, and there's nothing you can do about it. But we got him, and so I went to the garden, got the leaves of plantain, mullein, and comfrey, squashed them up, which is, that would be kind of like making a poultice, like you smashed it, and I mixed it with olive oil so that it would stick, and then we just packed it all around his tail and wrapped it in gauze. I'm not lying to you. 24 hours later, we came out to change the dressing, and when I tugged on the tape to unwrap the gauze, the whole thing slid off, and all that nasty flesh and everything else slid off with it, and it was the most beautiful pink flesh I had ever seen. We rewrapped it in the same stuff, and we did that every few days for about a week, and it completely healed. He kept his whole tail, the hair grew back. And so me knowing what I know, I'm still standing there going, I cannot believe this. I cannot believe what I just saw with my own eyes. So these herbs really do work. And so plantain historically has been known for wound healing and skin repair, anti-inflammatory and pain relieving, antimicrobial and antiseptic, which would point to why it did help so well with his tail. Respiratory health, digestive support, and then detoxifying and drawing action. So I use plantain. You can make tinctures with it and all, but I really like having it in infused oil, because then I can make salves with it. I can make lotions or whatever with it. Or you can put it right on whatever you have going on. So love plantain. And a lot of these are considered weeds because they reseed so easily. Once you get a plantain, like I bought the seeds for the broadleaf, what you see pictured here. I bought those seeds intentionally. They are native to where I'm at, but they're not real common. And so I wanted that one, so I got that one. And now, and this is one of my garden as well. See those little seed pods when they get dry? Pull the seeds off, and I will throw them in another part of the bed that doesn't have anything growing in it yet. And so and that's what I do with all my plants. It's just why it has that bit of a wild look. And so I really enjoy plants that help me out by reseeding themselves easy, so I get to work a little less hard in the garden. And so the plantain is often considered weed because of that. And then there's also a native variety that has a real thin leaf, and you'll see it come up in the spring. And so you can harvest them then, which is what I do. The whole plant, seeds, leaves, roots, can all be used. So love plantain. And then the third and final weed will be goldenrod, which is just about to bloom. And guys, please don't hack it and cut it down. Don't miss out on this herb. Or as they say, don't sleep on this herb. I didn't know what goldenrod would do until about 2 years ago. And where we live now, I had a big patch of it growing. A lot of people call it ragweed this time of year, but it's not. It's goldenrod. Ragweed is a different kind of weed. Whenever the seed gets done, they do different things. They do look similar, which is when they get confused. But this one is goldenrod, and you want to harvest it right when the blossoms are full, but they haven't opened yet. Like you want to catch them in that moment where they're just about to bloom and open. Because once they open, they go real fast through their life cycle. And so I harvested the goldenrod, made a tincture out of it. I love it because it turns the vodka from clear to this beautiful golden yellow. It's real pretty. The dega turns it orange. Purple basil will turn it purple. I mean, it's just visually really pretty to look at. And so goldenrod, I made the tincture and I strained it. And then, so I did it in the fall. And then in the spring allergies came. Everything started blooming and I felt stuffy and all of that. And I thought, well, let's give the goldenrod a try. And I can attest to that too. When I took it, then I started hacking up some nasty stuff. But you don't want it in you; you want it out. And so it's a good thing. And so goldenrod, another weed that I absolutely love. And so something I want to encourage y'all is when you've got all these notes, taking your notes, and you're going to go home and you're going to plant stuff, right? And taught you some plants. Make notes of it in a journal. If you will start an herb journal or a gardening journal, but like I have an herb journal because I write down recipes of things that I put together, and if it worked, I want to be able to go back and see it again. And if it's all in my head, it's gone. Exactly. It's like my great grandmother's recipes. They were all in her head, and so unless you sat on the formica and watched her do it when you were little, they're gone. And so write it down. You'll be glad you did, because then you can go back and look. Some of y'all have asked about how to grow lavender. Some of y'all have asked about some other herbs. And my thing is, don't ask me about lavender because I've not been successful since I moved to southern Louisiana. It's just so humid there, so I don't know what's going. I don't know. And it may have to accept it's just not a plant that thrives well. It's from the Mediterranean. It's where it originates. So poor soil, very dry, very arid, and that's where it's happiest. So obviously in southern Louisiana, just off the coast, down by the Sabine River, it's probably not as happy much, right? But here's what I always tell people: don't just buy one plant. If you want to grow something, get 3 or 4 of those plants and plant them in different spots and let the plant tell you where it's at. And then you can make notes of that in your journal, and then you can look back, help you be more informed. And then everyone has a microclimate. Goldenrod is starting to bloom at my place. It might not be here because y'all are just a little bit more north than I am, not a little bit, but 4 hours north of where I'm at. So timing will be different. So make notes of when things bloom in the wild. Make notes of when you found that wild patch of plantain and where it was. Because I guarantee you, I know you think you remember next spring where you found it, but you probably won't. And so write it down. So a herb journal is a great thing to have. A gardening journal is an excellent thing to have too. Why repeat mistakes of the past? Just write them down and learn from them. And if you're like me, I heard somebody say, I never make the same mistake twice. And then a friend of mine said, no, I'll do it 4 or 5 times just to be sure. And that's kind of me too. I assume it must have been something I did, so I'm going to do it again. And then, no, it wasn't. Just stop. So anyway, go ahead. I'm not sure why PowerPoint decided to drop my letters around like that. So, as I've been telling you about my 5 top herbs and my 3 good beans, like these are mine. And you might not like them. It might not even work for you. Especially in things like nervines. All of our systems are different. And so you might have to play with it till you find the one that works for you. There's a lot of different nervines. Someone was telling me that dandelion puts them to sleep. I have never had that experience in my life ever. But you might be one that maybe it does affect you that way. And so as people have mentioned, if you don't know about this herb, like if you've never used parsley, or you've never used oregano, or you've never used garlic in an oil or in something that you put on your skin, don't mix it with other herbs at first. Use them one at a time. And make sure that you don't react to it. Because everyone's body is different. These herbs are 99% of the time safe. People don't react to them. They're very common. But you might be in that 1%. So just don't compound them until you know that all of the herbs in the compound are good for you. And then if you have a problem because you mix some up, you'll kind of know, well, that mixture doesn't work for me. I happen to really like mixing valerian and hops. It's a combo that works really good for me with my nervous system. But not everybody is like that. Doesn't do a thing in the world for my husband. But my husband is laid back and steady all the time. So he doesn't even need the same thing I need. So you
Is valerian root, you just use the roots, or do you use the upper portion?
One of my books says that the upper parts can be used, but generally the part that is used as the nervine is the root, and so that's what I stick with. It's just the root. Oh, I'm sorry. She was asking if on valerian root if we could use the whole plant or if it's just the root. In this particular instance, the majority of the chemical compounds that interact with your nervous system are found in the root, not in the leaf tops, not in the green tops or the blossoms. That's been my experience. Some of y'all might have something else different to say about that. Yes, ma'am.
You said rose was your favorite herb. How do you use it?
Okay, so rose is my favorite herb, and how do I use it? For me, they make me happy, for one thing. They look pretty, they smell good. Yeah, so I love that. But they make a very good tea, like rose hip tea. It's chock full of vitamin C, and you get that little aromatic taste of rose, of the way the rose smells. It's real pleasant. So I like that. And then I also like to make like rose water or infused oils with rose petals for your skin. And the more old-fashioned the rose is, the more
fragrance.
Yeah, and the more chemical compounds it'll have in it. Some of our newer ones, I don't really know where they fall. So I love things that kind of harken back to antique and wild roses. If I'm picking for herbs, that's kind of where I go from that. But I've never met a rose. No, I'm going to rephrase that. I was going to say I've never met a rose I didn't like, but that's not true. I don't like knockouts. They're pretty from a distance, but you get up and they don't smell. And I love a big cabbage rose or a bourbon rose type of rose one. So, yeah, I love roses. That would be how. And then right back, you have your hand up too.
Yeah. So when you harvest herbs, what is kind of the ideal time factor between harvesting and using it or something if you're not drying it?
If you're not drying it,
Yeah.
okay, well, she's asking when is the time frame from when you harvest to when you use it. Well, as soon as you cut it, it starts to dry. So if you're going to use it fresh, you need to get on it and use it fresh. So pretty much if I'm going to use them fresh, they come in from the garden, they'll probably sit on the counter for a minute or whatever while I get things prepped, and then they'll go right on into it. Or I'll bring them right in and toss them in the pot, like if I'm making tea or something like that. And kind of like him, we have the same mindset. We don't use synthetic chemicals and poisons in the garden. So I have no issue eating right out of my garden. I can assure you that a little sand, a little grit, maybe even a little spider is not going to hurt you. It's not going to kill you. And if you look up on the FDA's website, it tells you the percentage of parts, fat parts, roach parts, whatever, is considered acceptable in the food that they sell you in the stores. So before you get all freaked out about what might come out of your garden, just know you're only freaked out about that because you know, or you think you know. If you knew what was in what the food you're getting out of the stores, you'd be way more freaked out. And so yeah, if I'm going to use them fresh, it's just almost immediate. And then if I'm not going to, because a lot of times like your herbs come in, like the plant's ready to be harvested, but timing wise it might not be good for you. And so you're going to have to just bundle them and let them dry, and then I'll use them and however I was going to do it. For me, so one of y'all mentioned it earlier, I don't use fresh herbs in infused oils because of all this, and I've been doing this for a very long time. So started using medicinal herbs when my 30-year-old daughter was 3. I wasn't growing them then, didn't know how to grow them at that point, but I was getting them from the health food store, and that's where we got started. But probably somewhere around 2008 or so is when I started making some of my own stuff. And so I only have ever had 2 jars of something go bad, and it was when I used fresh herbs in the oil. So for me, the reason was oil's not an astringent; it's not going to kill anything. It's just a holding; it'll just hold it. And so I like to dry them to make sure the moisture's gone away, because if pathogens were on the leaves, they need moisture to live, and so if you dry it, they don't have it, so they die, and so then your odds are much better. So that's my line of thinking on that. And a little note on that, you'll know if it's gone bad. Okay? If it's bubbling and things on its own, like you go and you look in the pantry and this jar is alive, then you don't eat that. Or if you pop it open and it smells bad, don't eat it. Don't use it. Something went wrong. But again, it's only happened twice in a very, very long time. So it's not a danger that you have to worry about. Yes, ma'am.
So, to go back, oh, I'm sorry.
One second, Q. I'll get you. Yes, ma'am. Okay, that's like a whole class, all on its own, 3-hour class. So I'll sum it up. Will you punch it one more? Okay, so that QR code right there will take you to my website.